Hi everyone. So I'm Alexandre Brianceau. I'm working at RUDDER, configuration management systems. So we are mainly focused on compliance systems, and so I'm here to talk about configuration management. So automation on your servers mainly, and specifically on what you can prove from your configuration. Basically, most of us are mainly focused on the automation part, and so I will show you that you can go deeper than there. The first use case that we can have that, okay, you're managing configuration, like Bob is a sysadmin, typical sysadmin from an IT company, and as such, so is responsible and in charge of all service maintenance and configuration maintenance. Okay, but it's not only for him. It's probably for other consumers and probably colleagues, such as, I don't know, there is Mark from the big data team that have some issues on his application, so he can ask to Bob, okay, what is going on? I have issues on my application, can you explain me? And he checks the logs, there is nothing. Okay, there is nothing means that all is okay, so he's like cool? No, not at all. Maybe he missed something. Why he could miss something is, of course, because now it's more and more complicated. IT is made for automating all the information, of course. So we have many environments. We've got many middleware, we've got many OS, we've got many users, we've got many use cases. So it's very hard to manage all things. This is why there is configuration management and automation. But it's not only the only problem. You've got also more and more teams that are working together and are concerned by your infrastructures. You've got the security ones, you've got the sysadmins, you've got the dev one, you've got also the users. And all is diluted from this team because there is not only one Superman that can do anything. And everyone, from the first part of the problem of the people, is that everyone have his own culture and his own tool. And so they've got different needs, of course. So you can have the chief information officer that needs just to know if his IT is reliable and working. You've got the security staff that need to know if my security compliance is okay. They've got different needs, but all are coming from the infrastructures, and so if they need to get the information from someone else, maybe they can have only a small part of the good information that they need, and so it can lead to misunderstanding. So I talked about configuration management and I talk about reliability. So what we need to just remind us is that configuration management is made for consistency of its systems. The objective is just to maintain your configuration okay, that your IT is working and everything is okay. If it's not configuration management, it's just simply automation. And why I talk about that is because there is more and more discussions about DevOps and DevSecOps. DevOps is now like 10 years old or something like that, and DevSecOps is more recent, but it's pretty much the same. It's just putting the team working together. And what things is very great and very simple to understand with DevOps approach or DevSecOps approach is the 4 pillars, the cultures to working together, but also the automation of your IT systems. So you can have a very good way of working that is very easy with automating all your stuff. You can just have in charge what you're made of, your plus-value, where you can make your part as a human. But if you only take the side from the automation part, you really miss something, the visibility of what you're doing. And so this is why also there is a measure. It can provide you some factual events, factual information that can be very useful to share with other people. So if you have factual information, you can work with your security team, with your production team, with your dev team and others, of course. It's very simple to talk about that, but this is also why there is like Ansible Towers that is really a great product because of that, because they give visibility to their users. So for people that are not so aware about what a configuration management tool is, we are not talking about just automation, and so not about scripting and steps. We are talking about a state that you want for your servers. Like, I want my users present or absent. I want my package on my system present or absent, or present, but with this exact version. And so it's idempotent, like it was said, there is a few talks now. And from this configuration state that you want to have, you will decline a configuration, a simple configuration that will be applied on your node. So on your node is the name that we called from your server or your machine or your laptop or anything. And from this configuration, you have a feedback. Like in Ansible, if you run it, you've got the result of your job that is running. Is it okay or not? From that said, you only have this feedback at the end. Is it okay or is it not? So it's a simple observation, and if you have multiple nodes, you've got multiple configurations or multiple feedbacks. It could be very complicated to know which one is in default, and of course it could be applied to the same machine, because you are not doing just one thing on your servers. Basically you are doing, I don't know, like 500 checks or something like that. It could be some stuff like that. And so it's very hard to know what is going on if you have any trouble in your configuration. So this is just about what configuration management do. And if you are just based on the simple feedback that you have at the end, you will have some issues to find where is my problem, where is my issue. You can guess, but it's not sufficient. You need to have the right level, the right skill to understand and to guess something that is accurate to your systems. So what we found, there is now a few years now, also specifically in monitoring, Centrion do a lot of stuff about that with observability. Observability is just to say, okay, I want to observe a system, but from the inside. And if you're very close, you've got the right amount of granularity, so you can easily know where there is a problem. A simple way to show that is like that. A simple monitoring, so just looking from the outside your systems, and you can guess that you've got a trouble with the triangle or the octagonal systems. You've got an issue, you don't know because it's a black box for you. You just have the feedback that is okay or not okay. With an observability approach, you can really know from each step, and you know from before the state, after the state, and at each step you can prove and find, and so you've got a full traceability of your systems. So what could it bring from the monitoring systems to the configuration management systems? It's very simple. As I said, you've got a big improvement from the causality, because you can prove when you have a system that is observable, that the problem is coming from this part exactly, because you miss this package because it's not available from this repository, because it was accessible. I can access to the repository, but the packet doesn't exist on this repository. This is the real problem, and this is what a sysadmin or a manager need to know when you have a problem, and not just, I can't install my program. So this is the causality part. Because of that, you've got a better perspective that is relevant to your domain. So this is very actual for a sysadmin part, but if it's for security, you can know that maybe you have to add a more fresh repository to your systems because of that. So you have a better perspective, and you can have factual events that could be shared between the team. And so this provides also a better agency. Agency is just to make it very easy to collaborate. Okay. So this was like an introduction. It's a very short talk, so I cannot go very deep. And I wanted just to introduce you what observability is. And of course, because we're a configuration management system focused on the compliance, so RUDDER is made for making your IT compliant, even just for a reliable system or for a security purpose. So it's a very simple tool, open source, of course, very mature. There is like 9 years now we exist. And I wanted just to introduce you how we handle it in RUDDER and how we manage observability in RUDDER for that. I have a more deeper talk. It's not by me, it's by Nicholas in like 4 days. It will be on Friday, I think, at the Open Source Springs Summit. It will more talk deeply and technically about how it managed by RUDDER. But easily in RUDDER, so you've got the left part, the techniques and the directives. It's basically the configuration. So you've got a configuration template, which called techniques, and after you are giving some details like what users or what data I want to manage with my techniques or with my configuration. And on the right part, you've got the nodes because you want to apply your configuration to something. So we manage it through groups that are dynamically allocated. And all is connected through a rule. So a rule is what configuration is applied to which systems. And this is allowing each kind of users to use it from his own purpose. So this is a basic how RUDDER works, the basic workflow. So you have the CLI, you've got the web UI, full complete web UI that allowing you to make all the configuration part. And you've got the relevant part that is relevant from your business purpose. So you want to know if your security rule is applied on all your systems, or maybe you want to check if a system is okay when you're connecting on it because you've got an incident on it. And this is the most complicated part. So as I told you, there is all the directive, so the configuration part, the group and the nodes, and all the parameters, it's the blue block. This is always the trickiest part because it changes every time. Your sysadmin is doing something, it's in this side. But also you've got environmental context because when you're using a template or an external file to configure your systems, it can change from the time that you make the change and now. Because you've got to be idempotent, you need to be aware that you can apply each time the same configuration. So all of that make a configuration file ready to apply to your systems. And after that, you've got the nodes that will download the configuration and applying it. But more than that, in RUDDER, you've got anything that is at one step have a change request or something like that. So you've got all the restoration of anything. And so you can also expect what will be the feedback of your nodes. So you send the configuration, or at least you produce a configuration. The configuration is downloaded. And you can already know that in 5 minutes, normally the nodes should answer me something like that because you can expect what the change is because everything is historized in RUDDER, thanks to the observability systems. And everything also is historized. It's very complex, and we are very grateful that the founders of RUDDER have already this observability approach in mind when they produce the system from the beginning. It's very easier now that everything is historized and everything have a very clear step that making the configuration repeatable and can be proved at any time. And what we can do with that is making something fancy like CVE management. So you've got CVE assessment. It's very simple. You've got your own configuration, your own nodes. You've got also some data from the external part, like from the CERT and others, or the vendors that publishing their CVE, their own CVE. And so this is a typical example of something that it moves daily, or maybe hourly, or maybe each minutes. And so you need to be able to prove that you found that your system is vulnerable, you find it, you can list it, you can know when you found it, and you can say, okay, I want to remediate. And after I can tell, okay, my systems is not vulnerable anymore from this part, and I can prove it. So the question is, can you prove your configuration? And if not, please just have this in mind, because automation is just not the only way to do this. It's a first step, but also you've got the solution and the business approach of what you're in charge and what you're responsible of. Thank you very much, and you can check on RUDDER.io if you want to have a demo. Sorry, it was maybe just a little bit technical, but on the RUDDER.io there is a full demo, and you can just play around and feel free to ask. We are also on a Gitter chat, so you can ask to the community some questions. Thank you.
Thank you.